Hello, guys. Yes, it's nice to be back in the year 2025. I do apologise that it has been a couple of months since the last interview. I may still sound a bit nasally, sound a bit like I've been ran over, been not keeping too well for the last couple of weeks, which not only delayed this one coming out, but it's sort of pushed me back in the way of future ones as well. However, I'm trying to rectify that, trying to once again get on the consistency. As you know, that's all I sit and complain about when it comes to these interviews, but trying the very hardest to get more out. I thought either delay this and even more. However, I thought, why rob the Bonnyrigg Rose fans and everyone interested of it for any longer? So, with that being said, it was nice to get back out. It was nice to be accommodated down in Bonnyrigg. It was nice. It was just lovely for Calum to have me out there as well. I always really appreciate it when clubs are that welcoming. It's a lovely wee facility down at Bonnyrigg if you've not seen it as well. And it's a club that is going through a wee bit of a turbulent time at the moment. Of course, they were made quite famous to do with their pitch campaign. So if you've seen that, then I'm sure you maybe spare a little bit of sympathy for them. Anyway, as I say, I do not want to rob you of this anymore, so I'm going to shut up and let you enjoy Bonnyrigg Rose's very own Calum Elliot.
Callum, I hate to start anything off on a negative or a wee bit of a downbeat like anything in life. Start as you mean to go on, but it's been a wee bit of a turbulent season here at Bonnyrigg. I would say there's been problems off the park, but the problem has quite literally been the park. So how has it just been for you personally to navigate a season that, as we were saying before, could look a lot different if protractors and spirit levels didn't exist?
Yeah, no, it's obviously been clearly difficult, but I think everybody within the club's kind of responded fairly well to it. As you say, I think like the club would be in a different situation if we didn't have the problem with the pitch in terms of points deduction, planning for making sure that we had the plans in place. But now, like I think the club submitted the necessary paperwork, and like the players, to be fair, have done their best to try and get the points to try and help us. I feel that we have responded well. I think like initially there was that kind of togetherness which comes, and then there was a little bit of flatness, and then I think recently we picked up a couple of good wins, and then obviously going away to Elgin and Peterhead were always going to be difficult games as well.
Been here about 10 months, 10 and a half, 11 months, something like that. Has it been everything you thought it was going to be and probably a wee bit more?
Yeah, no, it certainly had its like kind of difficulties. I think like coming at the end of last season, it was just a case of surviving. We managed to do that with one game to spare, with 6 games to go. So like the points that we've amassed in like the kind of short time that I've been there, like I'm quite pleased with. I think it's like 43, and I think it's like 30 games, and that includes probably like quite a poor run of form recently. So like it's been not bad. But it's like anything, you want to get better, and I think that's probably came from the, like, I wouldn't say a lack of experience within the squad, but like it's probably a lot of our players like first year within the league, which sometimes comes from sometimes you get like inconsistency. So it's just making sure that like the boys certainly learn from that, and making sure that next year like we are stronger from that. Like there's a long way to go between now and the end of the season, but I think certainly regardless, the players will be better for the year that they've had this season.
Have you got quite a young team, or is it just in the case of guys that are maybe the first year in League Two then?
Yeah, no, it's like there's obviously clearly been boys here that have been at the club for a long period of time, which I felt was important, and it's also making sure the ones that have been here do contribute and have contributed, and then it's then like recruiting players that you think are ready and will benefit from like kind of like what you're looking for as well. And it's obviously comes with its challenges, because like there is teams which financially we can't compete with. So like our market really generally has been the Lowland League. Like we have spoken to a number of players that are playing in the league, but we just can't get near them. So we have to try and build that experience up by giving them experience and trying to make sure that they learn from it as well.
We'll definitely discuss Lowland League to SPFL transition, because I mean there's probably teams in the Lowland League that you're struggling to compete with as well. I wanted to ask personally, like before we get onto the story, did you ever actually get into the dog walking industry?
No, I think it started just at the time. Obviously, I had the dog, and I just kind of retired, and me and my partner were like kind of looking at different avenues I could do to try and like effectively get a job, and like it probably started from like registering your company, and then that was it.
That's funny though, actually, because Johnny Stewart actually spoke a lot about how as soon as he left Hearts, he actually didn't know what to do with himself, because he had never worked at all. Of course, you were at Hearts yourself as a youngster. What did you ever have an experience like that? Then moving on from the playing to now the coaching, that sort of middle ground or the grey area that you had.
Not really. Like obviously my kind of career got cut short through like a bad injury I received like 2 games before the end of the season, and the club I was at the time, Raith Rovers, kind of booked me in for the operation, and then a day before the operation, like they basically said they wouldn't be paying for my operation. So then I then had a choice: do I self-fund it, or do I wait with the NHS? Because ultimately, if I'd self-funded it, I would then still be out for 10 months, which, without a wage, and then you'd need physio. It was just financially, it wouldn't have been possible. So I kind of looked at different avenues what to do, and then I got involved with the kind of local team at the time. We were really good in terms of like supporting me with my first experience and like managing and coaching, and with that, I got I started to enjoy it more and more, and like kind of explored different kind of avenues where I could try and be coaching more often, and it's taken me on my travels like kind of to different continents and different countries, but it's something that I have enjoyed.
As we like to do, Calum, take us right back to the start. Give us a nice wee chronological story. What was the sort of football upbringing up until your Hearts contract, really?
It'd just be like playing football with my brother and my sister, who both played, and then just playing at the park, which obviously kids don't do now. Playing against older kids, which I felt was like massively beneficial. And then was at Hutchie Kids School, and then went to Salveson, and then through that, like Hearts asked me to go and sign there, and then just before I signed for Hearts, I had the opportunity to go down to Middlesbrough, which I wanted to do, but just the clubs couldn't kind of agree a fee, and then eventually signed for Hearts, and then I loved my time at Hearts, and unfortunately, just injuries just took their toll in the end.
Are you from? Is it up north of Edinburgh? Am I getting that right? Whereabouts is it you're from?
South, so
South.
I'm like Collinton based.
Well, you can tell I'm a Glasgow boy then, at least. As we were saying there, you were in the youth ranks, and this was something that me and Johnny also discussed. You were in the youth ranks at the start of quite a very interesting time at Hearts. Of course, it was the early sort of Romanov era, if you like. I'm sure there's definitely some stories to tell from there, but how was that environment as a youngster coming through? And as much as you were a pretty accomplished youngster as well, but Hearts were spending money and they were bringing guys in. Did you feel there was opportunities? Like just talk to us how that experience was as a young player, pretty much coming into this team that was getting heavily bankrolled.
Yeah, so like my first year, Romanov wasn't there. Or I think he was in the kind of midst of like the takeover, and then it was only towards the tail end of that season that like you start to see the influx of Lithuanians coming over. But no, like I was always quite fortunate. Like even 16, I was kind of training with the first team, and then 17 got more kind of opportunities. I made my debut when I was 16, and then 17 I played like I think 5 times, and then my last year that was probably the year that I kind of made most appearances in a kind of season for Hearts.
Was it actually that, well, not bad, the influx of Lithuanian players, but I remember Johnny was saying about how he must have shipped over a bit of full team's worth on a plane once. Now, was that a weird experience, really, just having a lot of guys from the same place, coming into this football club a long way away from home, or was it just This is the usual around here now.
To be honest with you, I was probably kind of separated from that because like they didn't really get involved with the first team. So there was like the first team squad, and then there was like
So
the
they
kind of
bring over kind of youth players to develop that, right?
so then there was like the kind of bomb squad, like the reserves, and then there was the 19s and most of the Lithuanians which came over, apart from Chesnowskis and Michalunas, were with like the first team. So like the vast majority you didn't really like kind of train with, because like at that time obviously you had quite an experienced changing room, so there wasn't many that were kind of ready to kind of come into the first team. It was only probably once like Elvis and Webby left, then like they started to kind of get pushed towards like playing every week in the first team.
It's just bizarre. I mean, this is what I love, just all the weird and wacky stories. Because even Bobby up at Lockheed, of course, now he spoke about, because he came into the Dundee team when they were spending money, you know, and he made his debut with guys that played for Rangers and Hibs and all that up front of him. But I found that interesting. I think you said it to Calum McFadden actually recently. It was, you felt that technically as a player you were ready to come in, you know, ready to make an impact, but mentally you maybe weren't quite. Do you think that's something that we actually overlook a lot, even in still like today's game, is that a youngster's alright, but it's up here that matters?
I think like I think like technically, physically, you can always be ready, but I think like once you kind of start to, because at the time like Hearts were probably the second biggest club,
Well,
like
they
in
had
the,
their chance
they
to
were
win the
like
league,
they were
didn't they? You know,
like
it's,
they were going for the league with Celtic up until like probably January. I think they were top, and then obviously we lost 3-2 on New Year's Day, and then after that I think Celtic kind of got away from us, and then Rangers were quite a wee bit back, and then but like, we were still in the Scottish Cup, we were still doing well. So like with that, like, you know, like there was obviously quite a lot of like media, not attention, and then like even like just small things like when you're walking your dog, like people would come up to you and you're just like I struggled with it, to be honest with you, because I'm like, at that time I was quite like a shy person where I just didn't really like, still don't probably, people like my family would say don't like speaking to people that I don't know,
well, I'm
but
lucky to be here.
I know. But no, I found it quite difficult, and it was only something probably later on, once I actually went over to Lithuania, when I started to kind of like open up a wee bit and start to probably come out my shell, that probably it was a wee bit too soon for me. I probably wasn't ready mentally for that. But like in terms of like experiences and like being part of like a group and like seeing the standards that these boys had every single day, it's something that you know, I think that's something that you look back fondly on.
You had a few loan moves. I like to sort of dissect loan moves. I'm fascinated with them for some reason. Of course, you were at Motherwell, which was
Yeah.
all right for you. I read as well that you turned down Roberto Di Matteo and the new MK Dons Stadium at the time as well, but you were all right at Livingston, and then Dundee, let's just say, you had a wee bit of a false start. What, on your debut as well, wasn't it? It was straight in. What do you sort of take individually from loan spells? Because I can imagine that no three loan spells are the same, really.
The Motherwell one, again, like probably what I was like saying to you before about like mentally, I just like struggled with it. Like the boys were brilliant with me, but like I just liked being at home. I liked like being like I just loved my dog and just spending time with my dog, and like that was my life at the time. And like football was like just a kind of escape, and then didn't really get to see. I know that sounds pathetic, but I just like struggled with it because like I had a flat, like they put me up in a flat through there, but I wasn't really staying through, and like obviously I wasn't driving, so I know like everybody makes these sacrifices through like work, but I was like leaving at 5:30 to get the train through, so I was there making sure I was there early, and then I wasn't getting back till say 6, and then it was just like a continuous like cycle, and then but like in terms of experience, it was good. Like I enjoyed it, and then came back to Hearts, and then the following year I went down to MK Dons, and I was meant to sign, and then but they wanted to kind of see me in a game, and then I was just about to play in the game, and then like they got told that Hearts didn't give me permission to play. So then I was just like, there's something not right here. So like I just basically next day just came back up, and then went to Livingston, which I loved my time at Livingston. It was probably like one of my like best times in football because, you know, it was a good changing room. Like the boys were really good with me. And, you know, I was like quite successful when I was there, and then I came back to Hearts and I felt ready to play. I didn't really get my opportunity there until the tail end of the season, until like basically the player said to the manager, listen, you need to play up. And then at the end of that, I then I think I'd done my knee again. And then I'd been out for, I think it was like 14 months or something like that. And then went to Dundee, hadn't played any practice matches. I'd been training for like 6 weeks, and then within the first minute, like I went in for basically a block tackle, and like I couldn't move. And like I couldn't train when I was there, so I was like travelling up, and like I think they would still bring me on in some games, but it just wasn't. And then, like I just said at the end of that time, I just thought it was probably best for me to kind of leave the club and start like kind of fresh and like see what else was out there for me.
Where did they put you up when you were at Motherwell? Was that in Lanarkshire or was it like?
It wasn't actually far from the stadium. Just remember it being quite close to Asda.
Oh right, can't even tell you where the Asda.
Nah, it was quite close to Asda, so I'd just like go there most days when I was there.
Yeah, fair enough. You speak then about doing your knee, and that seems to be a wee bit of a common trend. You're there saying you sort of mentally struggled with adapting to maybe more grown up, professional environments like when you were young. Do you think the injuries also probably compounded onto your mental state a wee bit? Because I mean, I can't imagine it's very easy to take an injury when you're still trying to make a name for yourself and make your way in the game, as opposed to maybe if you're still playing now, you'd be a bit more resilient, if you get what I mean.
Yeah.
Do you feel like those injuries also probably were a bit harder to deal with because you were young at that point as well?
I think probably just the type of person I am. Like I'm quite like a deep thinker, and like you spent quite a lot of time alone. And like I'd done my meniscus, and anybody that's done their meniscus is basically, so when I was like 19, I almost had like bone on bone in my knee. So it was difficult, and there was times after that I would play, and I should never have played, but like I basically would take all sorts of painkillers, and like generally I couldn't even remember like how the game would be. And then like there'd be times when I'd done really well and I'd score, and to be honest, all I would think about is like what I'd done wrong. Like that's the type of person, like, what could I have done better? And it was a struggle, and especially at the time when I basically it got to a point where like I could hardly train, I couldn't play, and then when you were playing, like you hadn't been training, so like you're getting judged when you went on a Saturday, rightly so, by like your performance on a Saturday, and like I was miles off it, and like I had a conversation with the physio, and the physio was that I think you need to get it done. So I got my knee microfractured, so I basically had to sit on this machine like 12 hours a day, and it just basically like moved your knee back and forth to try and get blood flow in your knee, and it was tough. But again, like after that, it was the best I felt my knee, and I got back fit. Like I worked my absolute arse off to get back fit, and then I done my knee again. Actually, I had to get cleaned up, and then obviously, I think 2 years later, I had to get cleaned up again, and then when I was at Rafe Rovers, I basically had like what the physio said, or the surgeon said, like basically a total wipe out of your knee.
I'm shocked you made it to your late 20s as a footballer. I want to actually ask then, because you say about how you are a deep thinker and you maybe thought about the negative side of things. Do you think you've now gotten better at that, maybe given now your managerial career, but also just with age? Do you feel like you're now better at that, or does it still linger about?
No, I think like once you have like children, like probably that was the biggest thing. I think like once I started to have children, and you start to think differently about life. Like you're not selfish. You don't think just about yourself. And once you have children, I think you start to kind of realise what is actually important. And like obviously you still want to be like the best at what you can do. And like even now, like what I do, like it's not that I can afford to, but like I'll do it full time because I don't want to cut corners. I'll spend all the time I can to try and make sure that like I can prepare the players as best I can, and I know exactly what like the opposition's doing, like what we need to be doing. So like everything's structured and to try to kind of have the best career I possibly can.
I suppose you've got film analysis after this, haven't you? You've got movie night with the boys, as one might say. Let's get on to that fun part then. Vilnius, the capital of Lithuania. It could have been Texas as well, I read. Brian McLean actually did say about, because he went off to Brunei and then he went up to Iceland and he went to Preston as well. I suppose that counts. And he says that a lot more players should just go for it at least once in their career. As much as it sounds fun on the surface here, I'm sure it's not quite as easy as that in terms of, you know, the things you've got to consider in like your personal life and that. So what sort of, and even just talk us through that, because there was the late great Marius Saliukis as well that recommended it, wasn't it? And did Romanov not help you out with the move? Just talk us through that whole timeline of things and what you had to consider really to go out.
So it was the first. So like I went, like, obviously, it ended my contract early with Hearts. I had 6 months left, and you know I wanted to try and just like a different kind of life experience. So I went over to Vilnius, and like to be honest, like I loved it. It was a great opportunity for me. Like the players, like everybody looked after me. And it got to the point at the end of the first season where like you weren't really getting paid, and like I was still due like maybe a couple of months like salary, and like I knew I had the opportunity to go over to kind of Texas, so to Houston, sorry, and like I thought, do you know what, like if I don't do it now, I'm not going to do it. So I went over, believe it or not, I actually passed my medical. I know. And then just for one reason or another, like I couldn't kind of get the kind of the visa, which you obviously needed. So I came back, and then I was back in the same situation, signed for Alloa with Paul Hartley.
You ended up winning the cup over in Lithuania as well. It was the first time they'd won it in a long time as well. Like, what was that whole like? What else was the sort of life as a footballer like? Because I think we've got somewhat of an idea of what it's like over here, just maybe with the rise of things like interviews and talk, I suppose, is one as well. But what's the sort of life of a footballer out there? How does it differ to a Scottish footballer then?
Probably like, when I first went over, it was difficult because obviously you don't know anybody. But after probably the initial like 2-3 weeks, like I got quite close with, like there was like 3 Croatians and 2 Russians, and they spoke like fairly good broken English. So like we would go out for dinner, and like they would invite me to their house and stuff. So it wasn't actually too bad. But like you'd spend a lot of time yourself, which especially when you're quite a deep thinker could be
I
quite
can't wait to go on my exchange semester at uni next year, man. It's going to be fun.
Which can be quite disruptive at times, but no, like in general, like it was a great experience, and one which, to be honest, I'm like very, very grateful for, because like opened my eyes, and like sometimes as well it takes for you to go away to realise like what a kind of beautiful city you actually live in as well. And that's when like I thought, you know what, like it's important that I come back to Edinburgh and try and see what's kind of here.
You were extended an olive branch, if you like, from Paul Hartley there. You were at Hearts at the same time as him, weren't you?
Yeah.
So was that a bit weird coming back, having then maybe gotten more ingrained into Lithuania? And obviously you had a great goal record there as well. Was it weird sort of coming back into Scottish football, or was it like you never left?
No, like I felt ready to come back, and like I got like just coming and playing and enjoying football, and even seeing like what it was like doing part time, because it was the first time I'd been part time, and it was good because it opened my eyes to seeing like how like because obviously Zico had been like really successful the year before with Alloa, and like that year as well, like they'd done really well. Obviously, Queen of the South were doing really well in the league, but like they were a good side. They had them well organised, and just seeing what they done like part time level as well is something that I'll always kind of like reference back to.
See, I think it's interesting though, because I think it was. So I'm going back a while now. I think it was Stuart Petrie. He was the third guest I had on. He said the thing about Dick Campbell. Another person I'm just plugging all my former podcast guests here at this point. He said though the thing about Dick Campbell is that the thing he did best was that he somehow got the very most out of guys that he's seen. I mean, how many times do you see the boys a week? Maybe 2, 3 at the most. How do you then maximise the couple of hours that you get with them then, that ultimately, you know, you look at Celtic, Brendan Rodgers is in with them every day. You know, how do you go about that then?
Sometimes it can be difficult, especially because like just now we've had so many games, so like we've not been able to spend a lot of time with them. But like it probably comes from making sure that like pre-season and like the weeks you don't have games, that like you train how like you basically want to play, and it's something that like we do try and do, is we try and make sure that like in training, like the training sessions are structured and how we want to play, and that's something that like we can do. Like obviously like, you still try and like communicate as much as you can without being overbearing with the players as well, because like, at the end of the day they've still got their lives, their jobs, away from here. This isn't like their only source of income, but like, at the same time as well, like, you want them to come in and enjoy it, which like we try, and you want to improve them as well, and you want to give boys opportunities, which is a big thing for me. Like you want to give opportunities to boys that some people might not give them, and you know you just try and be as honest as you can, and like ultimately it's like anything in life. I think as long as you're honest and you treat people with respect, then like you'll get that back from people, and like the boys they're good boys here.
Maybe speaking about training there and maybe your overall managerial philosophy, if we had some sort of spectrum, let's say, or scale of your sort of old-fashioned, your type of Dick Campbell managers, or your very modern, your was doing at Bournemouth, for example, where would you say you lie on that? Would you say you are quite maybe modern with the techniques that you picked up, or maybe given your time spent down in the lower leagues, are you quite an old-fashioned manager? Where would you say you are on that?
No, I think like it can only be like it's. I think it just depends on like the players that you've got and like the budget you've got and what the players that you are going to like respond to. Because I think like obviously if you had like the biggest budget in the league, like they don't need as much information, and as much as everybody says like Dick's old fashioned, like Dick's still like you look at their record this season, I think they've scored the most
I've been
goals.
enjoying that one, by the way. On that.
They've scored the most goals, they've conceded the fewest. Unfortunately, we've got them on Saturday, but yeah, like so, like he knows what he's doing, and it's something that, like when you do get the opportunity to speak to him, you try and as best as you possibly can to get as much kind of guidance and help from him, because like the little nuggets that you can get from these guys are invaluable, and it's something that like you want to try and emulate the kind of longevity that they've had in the game, because it's hard. It is hard because especially when you're like a team that is basically the last like 2 or 3 years since I've come into the league just tried to survive. You're basically getting judged on that. So like, we want to try and improve and want to get better, and like we know now like we have been sucked into a fight. So like we want to try and make sure that like we're doing everything we possibly can to make sure that we are the best team that we can be.
Before we get on to Wraith Rovers, where the curtain came down pretty much for you, there was a bit of a weird situation at Livingston, wasn't there, in terms of your contract? What happened there?
Aye, so like it was just like a strange situation where basically they thought they'd basically like agreed to sign. It was just a mess, to be honest with you. I don't think the club was in a great place at the time. It's not what it is now. Davey's obviously done like an amazing job there, but at the time it was just a mess, and the opportunity to come to sign with Wraith Rovers and work under Grant and Smudge was one that I felt was right for me at the time. So like I spoke to Livingston and just made it clear that they knew the reasons why like I wouldn't have been going there. Obviously they weren't best pleased with that decision, but it was one that I felt was right for me.
You said as well that when you had packed it in, really, that you said you were happy to spend maybe just a wee bit of time away from the football. How long did that last? How was that for you? Like, where were you mentally when you decided, right, in terms of operation, it's not going to happen, I'm not going to rush myself back in, that's us, we're done, let's look on to the next chapter? Was it that easy just to say bye to it all, and then were you sucked back into it very soon? Like, where were you? Just talk us through that, because I can't imagine it's a very easy situation.
Nah, it probably was for myself. Like I think I just had enough. I just like mentally took its toll on me, like the injuries and like just like the whole situation with Rafe at that time. Again, like not in the same place it is now. But just the whole like kind of incident, how it happened, and like the lies that were kind of like getting told to you, I just felt like completely let down. So I thought, do you know what? Nah, like enough's enough. And it was actually my brother that said to me, the local team just down the road from me, we were playing like kind of like basically juniors. They were looking for a manager, and he said, like, do you want to go and speak to them? And I said, I'll go and speak to them, and they gave me the opportunity. And since then, like I've kind of like loved doing what I actually do, as stressful as it is at times.
Imagine you didn't have a brother, eh? You'd be a professional dog walker.
Well,
That's probably an alright way to look at it. You ended up pretty much getting as far away from Edinburgh as you possibly could down in England.
Yeah.
Down in, where was it? It was down sort of Plymouth way, wasn't it? It was down at Land's End. How did that one come about? I was interested. I was trying to find as much as I could about that, but I thought, you know what, I'll just ask you.
cheers for that. No, so me, my wife and my daughter, we moved to America for 3 months, and then went to Canada for 6 months. But like, I think we found it quite difficult, just the age that our kids were at. We had our second child in Toronto, and then just being ourselves there, it was quite difficult for my wife. So we then just thought we'd move back, and we thought it would be easier if we moved somewhere closer to home. So like an opportunity came up to move to well, it's effectively Land's End, Penzance, and thought, do you know what, it's in the same island, but I didn't realise it was like fucking like like basically further away. You could jump on a plane to Toronto and be there in like 5.5 hours, but it was a 9.5 hour drive to Penzance, which was difficult. But again, it was like I enjoyed it. It was full time. Again, it was a good club. They're actually still doing really well, so it was something that like I did enjoy.
Were you kind of involved in football like when you were over in America or Canada, or were you just like,
Yeah, no, it was.
I'm in a country of the NFL and the ice hockey isn't it up in Canada, or were you still involved?
Yeah, no. So it was basically once I had done my B license, I just remember something that they said to me. They said like it wasn't to myself directly, but try and coach as much as you can. And I thought, do you know what, like what's the best way to do that? Like because like there's not many coaching opportunities in Scotland, and like I knew that I needed to like improve as a coach. So I thought, let's see what kind of opportunities are out there. And I went over to America and then Canada, and you know, it was different age groups, different levels of ability. You're teaching boys and girls, and you know, it was something that, you know, I think if I hadn't have done, like I don't think I'd be in the situation I was in now, because you know, you're basically having to like teach people how to like kick a ball, like, and which sounds like ridiculous, but it's something that like if you can teach kids fundamentals of like basically like how to play football, then like the other side, once you kind of go further up the ladder, it does become slightly easier, and it has been that case, because I always felt like I didn't get like a proper opportunity when I was younger, when I played, to have like a proper apprenticeship in terms of like learning like the game. Like I was kind of put into the first team like really early, so like I learned when I was playing, whereas you know, I felt that I needed to learn away from, you know, like people slaughtering you every single week, like in a manager's position. So like doing that, I just felt it was right. So it was something that was like really beneficial for me, and it's something that I did enjoy.
You came back though to go to Tynecastle, didn't you? And you got on alright there, did you not?
Yeah, no, we done well. The first I took over there at the I think it was January time, and it was the year when most like the junior clubs were kind of coming over to the east of Scotland, because they started to go on the pyramid. So like the team wasn't going to go up, so like it was a young club. It's always been like kind of well renowned for like having good young players. So like we kind of wrote off that season, just thought, do you know which boys like would be good for the team moving forward. So we just played the young boys again. let them grow from the experience, let them suffer at times and help them, and then like just maybe bring in like 2 or 3 players the following year to try and complement the group that we had. And then it was, I think from that, the start of the season till I think it was March, I think that was when COVID came in. I think we played 23 games. I think we won 21 and drew 2. And like our record was like ridiculous. And again, it came down to giving boys opportunities, and like a lot of the boys are still kind of like doing really well within like the kind of East of Scotland Lowland League pyramid.
Tynecastle's always just, I don't know why, it's clubs like that, and then you've got St Roch's over in Glasgow, and you've got Cambuslang Rangers pretty much just up the road for me. I don't know why, like these sort of mini clubs of the bigger club just really interest me. Edinburgh City really interests me for some reason, just because they are pretty much just in the road for Hibs as well, aren't they? It's kind of the teams that are in the market of bigger teams, if you kind of get where I'm coming from. And it was Craig Gordon came through there because they get some sort of compensation when he went down to Sunderland, and did Darren Fletcher also play for them as well?
I think he might have been Hutchie.
So I'd said to you before as well, Trinent, of course, I was going to ask you about them. Doing pretty alright with them, and then all of a sudden you were gone. You said, of course, that you had pretty much taken the boys as far as you thought you could. You did leave it just out of nowhere, really. You left with maybe, was there a wee bit more to it than what was initially said at the time? I mean, a wee while has passed. Was there maybe more to the story than just taking the boys as far as you could?
No, like I absolutely loved my time there. Like the people like Matty and Breeks were like brilliant with me in terms of giving me that opportunity again. Like it was an opportunity I earned through the job that I'd done at Tynecastle. And like I just thought, like the circumstances in terms of like we'd obviously the COVID year, we were top, and then it got the league got, and then like getting promoted into the Lowland League was like a massive deal, and like it was, I think it's still the only team that's went through the pyramid, through beating like the like the South and the West team. And I wanted to make sure that like when I left the club was in a far stronger position, like on the pitch and off the pitch, than what it was when I took it. And like that's what I felt I'd done. And I think sometimes you've got to try and be like selfish in terms of like I felt the job that I'd done at that time might allow me opportunities, like open up opportunities further. Unfortunately, it wasn't the case. Like 1 or 2 like interviews, I didn't get obviously the job, but after that, but the Trinent job was one that like I certainly enjoyed. It's a brilliant club. The like memories for the winning that league and then winning the promotion was something that I'll never forget, to be honest with you.
There'll be Rangers fans hoping, I'm sure, that if Luke Clement has such a charitable approach to leaving football clubs, I think at the moment, which, listen, given the colour of clothing that I'm wearing, I'm not exactly complaining. I just want to talk about Trinent coming up. You then move on to a club, well, actually, no, you had a wee pit stop, was it at Pennycook you were at?
Yeah.
But before, and be there for about, was it 3 weeks or something, and then you...
No, so what happened was I'd obviously been out, it must have been about 8 months or something, and like it got to the stage where I just wanted to be back, kind of involved in football, and the opportunity to come to Pennycook arose, and it was like obviously it was a short period of time, but then like obviously when like, the cow and beef situation came up, I thought it was too good an opportunity to turn down. And to be honest, like the Pennycook committee were absolutely fine with it. So like they understood when I went in that, like I said, that if something comes up further up the kind of pyramid, then they wouldn't stand in my way. So that it was fine. And again, it was something that like I felt that it was always going to be a challenge, but it was something that I wanted to do.
As I was saying there, actually, about sort of Trinent coming up, and then you went into a club that had come down.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, nobody has, it's a, once you go down, you don't come back up. As it stands, of course, Brecon City have been chipping away at that for years. You also said that you were a wee bit sort of surprised. You thought you were quite lucky getting this job, because as much as quite literally it's very hard to get in or out of the SPFL. You think it's quite hard for coaches and players to actually get into the SP. Like if you're not already there, then you're going to struggle. How was that then, going from a club that had come up into the Lowland League? And do you know, I mean, financial situations at clubs in that league are just like, it's really hard to keep track of. How different was it going into Trinent, who I suppose if you come up into a league, you'd expect to go back down, as opposed to going into Cowdenbeath, who had come down, had all, I imagine all their players had gone, sponsors had gone. How is the feel of a club that has left the SPFL and is, I mean, they're struggling to even get a sniff of going back at this point now?
Aye, no, I think what we had with Trinent was like there was momentum. Like we built a squad which I felt was capable of going and winning that league, and like probably hindsight, you look back and be like, was it the right decision to leave? Probably not, because I do think that we possibly could have won the league that year. That's not being disrespectful to whoever took over, but like I knew that team was like certainly good enough to go and challenge or get closer than they did. And then obviously with like Cowdenbeath, like it's a brilliant club. Like they've got an amazing chairman, and it's just it's going to be so difficult with like the financial power of like 3 or 4 teams in that league to try and get out. There's a lot of good people involved with the club, and it's just going to take time. Like there's a lot of people that put in like kind of ridiculous hours to try and help and do their best to try and keep the club like basically surviving. But like in terms of like history, like it's there, but it's obviously struggling a wee bit at the minute. But you know, I've no doubt at some point it goes through life, goes like through cycles, and I think like your Berwicks, Cowdenbeaths, Stirlings, like you know, I think they will come back. Again, it just comes down to money, and like it's the nature of the beast at like that level. It comes down to which team's probably got like the biggest budget, and I would say that in every single league. To be honest with you, like going for the SPL, like down, like if you actually look at the top teams in every single league, like all the teams will probably have the biggest budgets, and I think obviously Cowdenbeath probably don't have that, and that's when it's difficult, and then you struggle to recruit like the right players because you know you then can't get
take it down.
yeah. And then below that as well, teams are paying good money, so it's got its challenge, but it's certainly a good club.
It's a Speedway stadium there, isn't it? Or it was, or something like that.
Stockcars,
I know, because I seen a video recently actually kind of saying about how the attendance has just totally dropped since they went down. But do you know, actually, me and my brother we went to East Kilbride. I was off work on a Saturday, so I thought, what better way to spend it up at the Ross Commercial and Finance Stadium. I tell you, Albion Rovers brought a very good support, and I thought that's really good. That, and Mac himself actually kind of gave them a wee shout out on Twitter to say that very commendable how, because they're in the same situation as well. I mean, they've went down, and I can imagine they are scrimping and trying to fight, but they're probably fighting a slightly losing battle in the way that Cowdenbeath and East Stirlingshire at the moment. We'll move on, and we'll finish off with more recent issues. I'd say you've never had the pressure off you ever since you came into Bonnyrigg. I mean, you could not have come into a more pressure-filled situation, could you? Because you were essentially recruited to keep them in the SPFL at that point, and now you are still fighting to keep them in the SPFL at this point. How have you managed that? You know, how have you navigated that, and maybe what experiences have you drawn on in the past that have maybe helped you get through all this?
It's certainly not been without its challenges, but it's something that I like that does drive you every day as well, because like, you want to be the person that tries to drive the club forward. Obviously, I've came at the back of probably one of the club's most successful managers, so like that's always going to have its challenge as well, because not like sometimes like change, not everybody wants change, and
you're the David Moyes to Sir Alex.
okay. But it's something that like I kind of thrive off, to be honest. I love proving people wrong. like you're never going to be every single person's cup of tea, but what you can do is do the best job you can, and like I do believe that I'm doing the best job I can. Like you're never going to make get every kind of decision, everything right, because like that's why I've been brought here, because if they got every decision right beforehand, that I wouldn't have been in the job. So to have kept the club in the league last year was a massive achievement, because I felt like looking at the games previous, because it was literally a call on Saturday night, met Charlie on the Sunday, and then took the job, and then 2 sessions, and then you're up at Stranraer, and it's like sink or swim. And like the games that we had as well at the tail end of last season were tough. I think we had 4 at the top 6, and like the points that we actually picked up again, like that was credit to the players, to be honest with you, like how they responded to maybe like a different approach, which sometimes like is needed. And then like this season, it's been a case of trying to put like kind of blocks in place where you can try and build the team, which was done previously, where there's been a strong core that have kind of taken the club through the leagues, and it's trying to like bring in like players of a certain age that can like kind of like grow with like the team as well, and that's something that we are doing. Like there's even like Ben that's signed the contract and he's went on loan to Berwick, and there's like a number of boys here that we feel that like given time they'll become like excellent players within this league, and we just have to try and get through the season, to be honest with you, and then be in a position which like we can recruit properly, because obviously at the end of last season, like by the time you actually like you're guaranteed to stay in the league, everybody signed up, so you're kind of you're not scrambling about, but you're seeing what's out there, and like I feel that we have done well to get in the squad that we have, and then it's a case of then building on that for hopefully next season. But we have a long way to go. We've got a lot of big games to kind of play in between now and the end of the season, and like Forfar and Stranraer are good sides, and like we believe we're a good side as well. So it's going to be a case of we've got to take care of our own business and make sure that we make sure that we get the points that we need.
Well, ultimately that is why I'm here. I'm here to convince the Bonnyrigg fans of you nearly a year late. Well, not that, of course. I'm sure they don't need any more convincing. Just to hopefully bring the fans a wee bit closer to their manager, to their club, his story, as humanising Scottish football is the way that I've sort of put out my aim. But this is going to run perfectly, I think, Calum. We've got about 6 minutes before you need to go. I like to ask everybody the same question at the end, that let's say we come right back in here to this glorious gym facility, and I ask you, Calum, see, since the last time we sat down, have you done a good job? You tell me, aye, Charlie, I have. And I ask you why. So in a year's time, kind of coming into the sort of tail end of the season where every point matters, what will be a good job for you in a year's time?
Again, just progression. It's having more points, more clean sheets. I think we're quite clear on how we want to play, and again, it's improving on that and being quite disciplined on that, and then it's making sure that we do try and build up that connection that like we have with the supporters, and making sure that like when they come and watch a Bonnyrigg team, it's everything that they want to see, which is like hard work, and it's playing for like the badge, and it's making sure that like the players know that like when they come here, whether that be to play or to train, that they give absolutely everything, and ultimately that's all you can ask for. And for us to progress, we need to get better, and it's something that like I'll certainly strive for, to make sure that we do continue to try and make sure that we go on an upward trajectory.
A flat pitch as well, that's got to be one of your good job aims for a year's time.
Well, it's funny. It's funny you say that, because, like, everybody like talks about pitches, but
Aye.
like apart from probably the last few weeks when we've played like an obscene amount of games, like our pitch is probably one of the best grass pitches that we've actually played on this week.
Oh, he's on a grass pitch, aye.
Pardon?
Oh, he's on a grass pitch, aye. Oh, sorry, of course he's alright, because I thought you won, aye.
But like, there's grass pitches that we've played on that have been like woeful, and even some of the Astros are like ice hockey. pitches, and ultimately, I do understand the predicament with the pitch and it not being level, but I think in terms of the work that the groundsman does, he's done a brilliant job, and sometimes people forget that as well. There's people that put so much time into doing getting that pitch right, and I'm sure hopefully if it all goes well, then the pitch will get sorted come the end of the season.
Fuck, I mean, it's not his fault, is it? If he can keep a good slanted pitch, I'm sure he can keep a good flat one. But anyway, Callum, it's been an absolute pleasure to come out here to Lothian. As I say, I always do enjoy my travels through Edinburgh to come out here. I've been to East Lothian and I've been to Mid Lothian. I don't think I've been to West Lothian yet, but I'm sure I'll complete the Holy Trinity at some point. If anybody's needing their dogs walked, then you know who to call. But Callum, thanks very much, mate. It's been a
Cheers,
pleasure.
thank you.